We move on to this story now, Stephen. The financial market seems to be thinking that it is ready to press the like button on social media influencers, or more specifically fin-fluencers, and their potential to change the face of the financial services market. Industry insiders say that the proof is of course in the pudding, in that the global frenzy around prime energy drink made popular by YouTuber Logan Paul. Our business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo went out to Investec's market surveillance conference in Sandton to find out just how prepared financial markets are for this shift.
Well, the global financial market is seeing some trends in risks to the industry, but also some interrupters, including social media. And to give us a little bit more insight and help us dig a little bit more, I am now joined by Mike Goosh, who is the head of product at Bloomberg. Thank you so much for your time. I think as a first starting point, let's obviously talk on some of those risks and market abuse that we are seeing in the financial markets. What are some of those? And is there a difference of what we're seeing in the more global markets compared to the emerging markets?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, it's a very common set of themes that I'm seeing here in South Africa that I see elsewhere in the world. So I think the challenges that are being presented to operators and participants in this market can really reference what we've seen in some of the developed markets, and they would be around the typical aspects of monitoring trade flow in order to ensure that there's a fair market and there's fairness to customers in your process through. Now, I think that the prime thing that people are worried about is suspicious transaction monitoring, and that can look to a whole variety of different sources and cases. In a practical sense, insider dealing, if you're in possession of information that you shouldn't have in order to affect a positive outcome for you personally, or you personally ahead of somebody else, in terms of like maybe a front-running scenario, then these are themes that are common. And so it's been a very interesting debate to understand what those flows look like in South Africa, and how the cultural aspects of how trading and how market microstructure is developed here, that allows us to look at this common framework that can be applied worldwide, but with the subtle nuances and ingredients that are needed to support the activities that take place here.
And some of the, market changes or influences in the financial market that we are seeing is social media influences, specifically on the back of this prime energy drink that I, as a parent, also had to, way off the kids and wanting that. But talk us through how fin influencers are really infiltrating the financial markets. And we did see, prime hydration, they stock soar as the kids were wanting this energy drink. What role is social media influencers starting to play in the financial market?
Yeah, no doubt it's significant. The traditional price influences of corporate announcements and research and analyst ratings have really been supplemented by this influx of other items, and social media, as you point to, is become a huge thing, because this has skewed the balance of flow towards retail. So the demographics of the investor base that's coming into the market has significantly changed, and of course these kind of users are really thinking about it in a different way. Not necessarily looking at core value, not looking at the fundamentals of a stock or an asset, but are thinking about that short-term influence and short-term gain that they can gain from it. So yes, there's a lot of social noise as well, and to the point that you make about Prime as an example. Of course, there's a lot of social media content. The challenge for the industry generally is to distill that down into something of a meaningful signal. So yes, there can be a lot of content about a given entity, a stock, if you will. But in the case of Prime, it's arguable, was it just a good marketing campaign? I mean, at the end of the day, social media is about promoting, whether it's a personal agenda, or a corporate agenda. So there's a very fine line, and I think the regulators have a real role to play in defining what that line looks like. But I think it's in the best interest of everybody to understand that these influences exist, and monitoring and surveillance is required in order to mitigate for what those might be. And I think as the world evolves and as social media evolves and people's attitudes to social media evolve, there's no doubt that we can begin to distill differences using technology between a simple tweet or a post on Facebook to one that can actually decompose the sentiment from that, whether it's saying something positive or something negative, how much of it there is, what kind of frequency it occurs on. So there's a really big challenge ahead, but it's certainly something that we at Bloomberg and as an industry are at the vanguard of thinking about.
Mike, thank you so much for your time and talking to us. Of course, that was Mike Gooch, who is the head of product at Bloomberg, just talking us through some of the risks to financial markets, but also the importance of market surveillance, but also the new trend on the block within financial markets, of course, being social media and fin-influencers, saying there, of course, that they are aware and are being the vanguard when it comes to looking out on how social media influencers can really impact financial markets. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Sandton, Johannesburg.